Hello.
Hi, Justice. How are you?
No, I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, Sandy.
Hello.
Is that next week, Thursday, Scott?
Yes, yes, yes.
Cool. Make you 15th. Hello, Sam. How are you?
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Apologies
you?
for joining a couple of minutes late. Okay.
Sandy, while we wait for everybody, what's the date of the next working group for the contribution guide? I just want to put it on a
It's
slide here.
15 May, 5 p.m.
Okay. On the same day as the...
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's fine. We may want to stagger them at some point, but we'll see what the attendance is. Hello, everyone. You can all read that along.
Howdy.
Hi, Greg. That'll save me from having to read through this every time. You guys can read through it so long while we wait for everybody else.
Hey, you lovely people.
Hi.
Hey.
Morning.
Well, let's see if we can see the mess of a thing I have.
Glad to see our entire team is here. And Sam. I don't know what happened to everybody else. Sam, we have some deep technical conversations lined up for today, so I hope you're ready.
Thanks, just look forward to it.
I'm only saying that because, between you and Greg, you are the only two technical people currently in the call. And Scott, of course, but, Scott's more on the DevOps side.
So we're missing Mr. Foley, is it?
Yeah, Foley is currently still in the Philippines and will be traveling back to the Netherlands shortly. So I think he may be in transit and not able to attend today.
Okay.
If we are unable to resolve this ourselves, we may actually have to defer the conversation, but you guys will see what I mean when we get there. So, welcome to the Technical Steering Committee meeting. I'm going to carry on. If anybody else is able to join, hopefully they'll be able to catch up. But in the first slide, we are just going to draw your attention to our antitrust policy notice. If you have any questions, you should certainly ask your own lawyers. And if they can't help you, well, you're going to have to ask your own lawyers. Our lawyers are for the Linux people. There's also a notice here at the lf-charities.org/antitrust policy if you want more information about our antitrust policy. On our agenda for today, we are anticipating hopefully a quick meeting. Just a little bit of feedback from the working groups. That would be Sandy, who has had a session since the last time we met. The CICD working group has not had a meeting since our last technical steering committee meeting, so we expect that they will only be able to give us feedback after they have a meeting next week. And then we want to have a quick discussion about our CORS policy in our APIs. There was an issue that we uncovered as part of our demo UI update. So we just want to discuss that in the team to see if there is an approach that we could then agree on, because I actually had a look at the current implementation of our CORS policy, and I can't detect that there was any discernible pattern or, how to put it, conscious thought put into what we decided to implement. So we should probably think about what we want to do there. So just to start then with the working group feedback, Sandy, do you want to give a verbal feedback or do you have something to share?
I would like to share the Miro board.
All yours.
I could still the share.
Yes, as soon as I can click this button that says stop share. There we go.
Okay, just give me a minute. Right, can you see the Miro board?
Yes.
But small. So feedback from the contribution guide working group is that we have met regularly. We've had about 6 meetings so far. We have defined a process by which we can all collaborate on working together on creating and improving the existing contribution guide. What we've done so far is, if you have a look at this Miro board, we've proposed an outline for guides by contributor persona, and then an overall overview section. So we've identified all the content that we think we need in our contribution guides. And so far, the ones in green have been created. So the licensing one was a new one that we put together and linked a whole bunch of existing content to. And then highlighted in yellow are some of the new guides that are currently in progress. So Foley's in the process of creating a guide for building a new rule. Scott's in the process of creating a release management guide. And I'm in the process of creating a technology stack guide from existing documentation that we already have. And that's about it. So that's what's in progress. That's where we're at.
And then the next meeting is next week on
yes,
Thursday.
Is 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is 5 p.m. South African Standard Time?
5 p.m. Yes.
Okay, excellent. And then Scott, your meeting on Thursday next week as well is at what time?
It's at 4 p.m. South African time, 4 p.m.
Thank you very much. So if you would like to attend either one of those sessions to help us with that information, you can join either of those 2 sessions. If you need a link, please let us know. Okay, back to my presentation here and on to the next item. Hi, Paul. I'm very glad that you are also here because I'm pretty sure that you would also know what this is, because I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not kidding. This is the cross-origin resource sharing course, which is a security mechanism that exists so that if you are trying to access a resource from your browser, you need to have specific policies in place, and also you need to make allowances for specific changes to that policy if you want certain behaviors to be implemented. How this issue came about is we were developing the extension to the demo UI, which allows the demo UI to interact with our APIs to maintain conditions. So we can create conditions through post requests to the admin service API, and then we can fetch conditions with a GET request. But when we try to do an update of an existing condition with a PUT request, we started to see CORS exceptions. The development team who worked on the demo UI for us implemented a workaround for that, which essentially meant that they updated the code to allow for a to update the CORS policy to allow for a PUT request to be sent through to the API. What we are trying to figure out is whether or not we should just be doing that, because ultimately I think those risk constraints and the policies exist for a reason. And in particular, if we are talking about the securing of our APIs and our applications, we probably want to give due consideration for security issues such as this. So how this manifested here is we have two instances of the system. So if you are deploying Tazama on localhost inside, for example, a Docker environment, you would have a Tazama environment set up inside that Docker environment, and then you would deploy all of the containers that you want to be able to use to run Tazama on your localhost. And you can then create a container here for the demo UI, and the demo UI can then interact through your browser with the TMS API and the admin API. So the current CORS settings for the TMS API is basically origin star, which I'm assuming means it can come from anywhere, and methods is post. So these have been registered in Fastify. And then on the admin API side, you can see that the only method here that was registered is the GET method. Interestingly enough, we did not have problems posting to the admin service API. We just had an issue doing a PUT, even though the only method here that was registered is GET. On the TMS API side, the method that we are using there is exclusively post at the moment. There are no methods on the TMS API that require PUT or GET requests. So that doesn't happen here. And then obviously in the cloud environment, you would have a distributed deployment of Tazama where each of these containers would run almost in their own namespace. Typically might have their own IP addresses and so on. So if you deploy the demo UI to that particular namespace, it would be I would imagine, cross-origin, right? So it would come from a different IP address and try and access these TMS APIs at a different internet resource locator. So the real question that we have is, what should this actually look like? And do we need to provide for alternative environment variables to be able to determine a deployment that meets a specific use case, right? So is there settings here that we need to, for example, say, create an environment variable that says we are deploying on localhost, and these are the recommended core settings for localhost. And if we are deploying into our cloud environment, these are the recommended CORS policy settings for a cloud environment. Or should we just lock this down? And the fact that we are having a CORS issue here at all is an issue in the demo UI and not something that we need to try and accommodate inside our services APIs. So I'd really like to throw that out there to the audience because, as I mentioned, this is me. I am not
I thought it was me
on
too.
top of what this particular issue means.
Yeah.
So anybody who has anything to offer here, please take the floor.
Yeah, I just would throw out, I have limited knowledge in this space. I've typically just locked it down just as and gone that route. But I know that both Paul and Sam deal with it a lot in the modular framework, so I would leave it to them to comment.
Thank you, Greg. Paul?
Yes, the normal way you do that is you put it through a gateway. So you essentially speaking to one gateway, and that gateway is redirecting the calls to the relevant microservice, which is handling that particular API. So then externally, it becomes a single point of call. There are some very lightweight, easy to configure gateways that you can put in place, and there's some industrial grade gateways. Nginx comes to mind because it's really simple, reliable, open source, easy to configure. It wouldn't what I call a performance gateway, but these are user APIs, and I don't think we have performance issues on it. So Nginx can be configured as both like a proxy gateway, but it can also be configured as a reverse proxy. I don't know if you have a requirement for the reverse proxy here.
No.
I don't know either.
But the demo UI going back looks like it might. Normally, the way I tend to see it is there's static markup, which is your UI, and it actually downloads and runs inside your browser. So the actual the fact that it came from the local host is arbitrary. It's just happened to be where you were hosting it. It could be anywhere else. It could be locally. It could be using one of these distributed sites of static markup. I can't remember the terminology everyone uses. But really the way it's running is just inside the browser and then accessing the APIs. So what's on the browser is external. It's not internal. And it's just then accessing the APIs. And the error you're getting, the cause error, is because the two APIs are going to slightly different places. So I think this Nginx application will solve it quite easily.
That's an interesting suggestion as well, because the proxy gateway is also one of the recommendations that we've been given out of the security team, who just recently did like a survey of our environment, and they suggested a proxy gateway as an additional secure measure. Greg, you had a comment?
Oh, I was just going to say that's the document it came from.
Yeah.
So, Justice, is the reverse proxy the gateway for it already not set up? From what I'm understanding too, as far as the network piece.
So no, because you are in this particular context addressing these features directly, right?
Okay.
Scott might be able to comment on that, because we may actually, I've seen Nginx somewhere here in our cloud environment. Yeah. So I don't know, Scott, if we actually have a gateway set up in this environment.
Also, can I ask a question here? Just to clarify.
Sorry, Sam. Sam, can I just give Scott a quick second so that he can just answer that question, and then we can. I want to hear your question.
Okay. So the current use case we have for the Nginx is the ingress controller, and that is traffic when doing the cloud deployments. So we are not using it on the application level, I can say. But yeah, that is an interesting point, and it could work on that Paul put forward. But our current use case is entirely in the cloud.
Okay. Sam, question?
I was asking, so this demo UI, what does it do? What is it needed for? And is that made available in production deployments as well?
No, it it is exclusively a demonstration service. So this is the demo UI that we built.
Okay.
This is still the previous version of it. So it gives us a visual way that we can demonstrate Tazama. We realized when we tried to do demos previously, it's very difficult for people to follow sort of a Postman-based demo because it's all text and API interaction, and then you have to drill through the JSON files to show people the results. So a visual method like this is a lot easier. So we created this functionality here where you can add potential users, you can add another account, and you can have people transact with each other through the system.
Thanks,
And then
Justice.
it would show you the system's response in a sort of a visual way, right? So that's what we built. And then we enhanced it to add the condition management functionality now where you can set blocking and override conditions against certain accounts or certain entities. And that's where we encountered the issue with the course. But yes, this demo UI is for demos. And also, I suppose, if you wanted to explore the system on your own, this is also a way that people want to be able to visually see how the system behaves under certain conditions.
Hey, Justice, highlight one of the rules for a second. Make sure they see that. Yeah, see. So it explains everything, the rules and the typologies, what triggered,
Yeah,
and why, and all that. So.
yeah.
This is great demonstrating Justice. So I was asking that to understand the security implications of using Course, and because it's not in production deployments, I don't think there's much impact from that side. And Course is like regularly used in UI platforms. So if you use like an ingress controller, I think yeah, I don't see any issue from security side. I'm not an security architect, but based on what I'm doing for Mojlib, that's my opinion.
So the question I then have is, if the problem that we are seeing is almost exclusively going to be an issue during a sort of a local host or an exploratory deployment of the system, right? How do we get around this in a way that doesn't compromise the security in a production environment? So say, for example, I mean, if we follow the recommendation here, I would certainly want to deploy a gateway when I go into my production or cloud-based deployment, right? But I may not necessarily want to deploy a gateway here if I want to do a local host or a developer deployment or a demo deployment or something like that. So what is a reasonable way then of getting around this? Can we or should we create a demo environment variable that will just apply the core's policy overrides for demo purposes? Because the risk always there is if you create an opportunity for somebody to override something, then they're going to forget to turn it off when they get to their production environment. So you almost have to make sure that your default setting is always production ready, and then you are overriding it specifically for a demo deployment. Just to be sure.
I think you answered your own question.
Yes. I want somebody to bail me out. Somebody must tell me how we can make this easy.
I think some browsers. Go ahead, Paul.
No, I think Sam's point is valid. Is if this is a demo, then there isn't really a security concern.
Yeah.
But the default should not include that, but you should have a way of overriding it for demo.
Yeah. And I suppose all of these values, the environment variables and everything is set through our deployment process in Helm. So we just need to make sure that in Helm, this setting is certainly not included, and that the default setting is no setting is a default secure setting, and the explicit setting of a course policy override is then set only when you deploy for the demo. So you have to be very determined and deliberate in switching it on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't sound unreasonable.
No, that sounds great for me.
Keep in mind, some people are like our switch Alan is using the Docker scenario. It's for development, and they they'll eventually move that over. But at the moment, it's Docker based.
Yeah. So what we would typically do, and if I can maybe illustrate it here, let me see if I can. Just give me a sec. Oh my word. What did I do? Let's try that again. Okay. Let's go here. So largely we control our full stack Docker deployment through a little script that the Simon guys had written for us, where you can actually select the options that you want when you do your deployment. So typically here is if I wanted to, let's say, for example, do a GitHub deployment of the system out of the main branch, then I would select that option. And in here, I would explicitly select the demo service to be on or off. So the CORS policy override should then only be set in the Docker Compose files when I select the demo UI to be deployed. And if I'm not selecting the demo UI to be deployed, then the CORS policy should default to the more secure option. So I think there is a sort of a convenient way for us to control this during the demo stack deployment. And then that option should simply never be switched on in the cloud-based Helm deployments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Greg, any concerns, reservations, or are you happy to say aye?
No, I'm quite happy with that. Yeah,
Okay, cool. Aye
Yeah,
from me as well.
the only other implication, Justice, is the with CORS, sometimes some browsers are in their secure mode or even in default. They complain and don't allow the consumer, like the user who's trying to get the server information because the domain changes. But I don't see that having any impact in this scenario, so should be fine.
That's actually a good point, and it might be worth adding that to the troubleshooting section of the documentation for the full stack deployment. So if for whatever reason somebody is experiencing an issue, we can at least tell them where to look and tell them it's not our fault. Okay. And that was everything that I had on the agenda for today. Was there anything else from the floor that anybody wanted to have a chat about? Or alrighty. Thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday and your Thursday evening. We'll see you all again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.